I have been feeling a little arrogant and condescending recently, and I think I figured out why. This is a quote from Dostoevsky's The Dream of a Ridiculous Man. I believe that's what it was called. And it goes like this: the consciousness of life is higher than life. The knowledge of the laws of happiness is higher than happiness. And the first time I heard this, it reminded me a lot of what Socrates said from his 5 dialogues in the Apology, when he said that wisdom is knowing that you don't know at all. And yeah, I think I completely approached life in a way that was concerned with garnering as much knowledge and as much philosophy as I can. Up to this point, my life has been nothing more than this pursuit for knowledge. Everything was happening in my mind. Basically little to no action, and I spent a lot of time thinking, and I think that's where my happiness really lied, in my thoughts and in my mind. I didn't approach things as I used to, like when I was a child, maybe, when it was more so this certainty. I was looking for an answer, or maybe something that is right. I was thinking that there must be a right answer. And if there is no right answer, then I couldn't be happy in some way. So it was really this uncertainty of anything that scared me away from, I think, doing a lot of things that I should have done that I now regret now. Well, the quote talks about the consciousness of life is higher than life, and the knowledge of the laws of happiness is higher than happiness. So yeah, instead of living that life, instead of just being happy, I was so ingrained into finding what every single little detail of what happiness meant, what it meant to be happy, how to be happy, that I was never really happy. I just sort of, it turned into this, rather than being happy for just myself, I was happy for just gaining this wisdom in some sense. But how can this ever be wisdom or knowledge if I don't do anything with it? And I didn't really do anything with it for over a year. It's been a very long time since I've done nothing but sit and write and read, because I felt like that was all that I needed. And if I could just read one more book, and if I could just write more and analyze things and chase this one instant where everything sort of clicked, then all of a sudden my life might turn out better. But even if I did find these answers, and then I knew kind of what the meaning of happiness is, or the meaning of life is, it didn't do much. And when I realized that, I thought I missed something. So I would read another book, and then I would write even more, trying to overanalyze this, trying to get to the logistics and the reasoning behind all of this. And yeah, it just led me down this rabbit hole of thinking. I did read Notes of the Underground Man, or Notes from the Underground, sorry, that year ago. And back then I was very hyper vigilant, very hyper conscious. But that was more so like a social thing, I believe, especially when I was in social places, in the public. Even something as simple as crossing a crosswalk, I would, my heart would thump. It was pretty bad. I felt like everyone was watching me, and I had to do something with my hands. I had to put them in my pocket, or I had to grab my phone and sort of look at the weather app, as people say. I had to know if my neck was too positioned forward. What would people think of my posture if my neck was like a turtle? They would think I'm like a addicted gamer or something, and I didn't want them to think that. I wanted them to think, oh, I was this intellectual. I read a lot, I wrote a lot, and then I knew a lot. So I would be so conscious as to fix that posture and then put my hands in my pockets or have my hand on my phone and just walk as steadily and as sophisticated and as normally as I can. And it really, really messed with my mind. And since reading that book, that has changed. I mean, I still struggle with it sometimes, but for the most part, it has changed. But now this sort of other thing has come onto me, which is this hyper consciousness in knowledge, just wanting to find every single answer and try to solve every single uncertainty. And yeah. What's funny is that when I finished reading The Underground Man, I thought, yeah, this book is life-changing. It's going to change my life. And it did in that regard. And I could say the same thing for this book, The Dream of a Ridiculous Man. I write every single quote and every single thing I find cool and intriguing in my journal, and I always say this book is going to change my life. And then I write like a 10-page essay on why it did. Man, nothing changes. I'm hoping this is not the case. Because, well, I can't remember the last time. I can't remember what reading The Underground Man has felt like in that moment when I finished the last page and I put the book down. I don't know if what I'm feeling now is what I felt back then, and if that somehow relates to if I will fail or not. And I mentioned me being condescending or arrogant because I recently had a conversation with a friend, and this friend was struggling a little on what to do in school and sort of struggling, I guess, with meaning. And I tried to help him out, tried to give him advice and be empathetic to the situation, but I always felt that the way I approached trying to help was as if I was trying to, I was trying to share my knowledge of what I've read and what I've found out when I was writing to him. Like as if I was like superior than him. It really felt that way, and it really bugged me when I came home that day and I was like, oh, this didn't feel quite right. Yeah, it felt as if I knew the answer to that uncertainty. And I think that was the main issue, just thinking there was always answers and there must be answers, there must be a right. And another thing was, I guess, taking everything to the extreme of reason and logic. When it came to my writing and reading, after this over culmination of knowledge, I felt that it wasn't for my heart anymore. In The Dream of a Ridiculous Man, he also makes this distinguishment between the heart and the mind, and what comes of it, and what happens when you lead a life that is purely led by logic. Again, it's like that path towards certainty, and I guess Dostoevsky's trying to say that sometimes uncertainty is the path to go, just trusting your gut, your intuition, your feeling, and leading by emotion. I guess a balance of those two. But of course, I was going completely to one side, just treating it as if it was a maze or some great puzzle I needed to solve. I wasn't taking things with curiosity or fascination. these things have left me. It's like my inner child left me, and the inner child is so important, I feel. Once we lose that spark and just that drive to just know that the unknown will probably never be knowable, but we still try to go for it anyway, I think that's what I was missing. And I was glad to come about this quote. Also, another thing which has inclined me to make this is just the amount of connections, really, throughout literature. As much as I've been reading pointlessly and writing pointlessly for this whole year, I felt everything that I've read and written all connecting to this one quote. There's actually one connection in Lord of the Rings, or actually I should say Tolkien's more broader legendarium, where he there's a book called Morgoth's Ring, which is part of a series called The History of Middle-earth, and there one of the chapters is called the Agrabeth, where a woman named Andreth and a elf named Finrod have a debate on good and evil and the nature of morality and the nature of their fates, because men will, as us, die after living some years, but elves are immortal. And Andreth, the woman, was very concerned about her fate. What happened after she died, and she was very afraid. Finrod, I guess, wanted to give her more of a hopeful answer, but he was also very uncertain, but he tried to bring light to that uncertainty, tried to shed some light to that it wasn't always a bad thing, that these things, we don't know these things yet and we don't have answers. Another one is, I think, where I'm gonna spoilers for LOTR if people haven't read it yet, but it's Tolkien's take on why Frodo hadn't failed in Mount Doom, and it's also why the Fellowship might have gotten that far, because if we recall back to the Council of Elrond, Gandalf states that, well, in opposition to Boromir's suggestion to take the ring to Gondor, Gandalf suggests that we must destroy this ring in Mount Doom. And though Boromir calls it folly, Gandalf instead suggests that how uncertain this is it might lead to something, at least. And even Boromir's suggestion is also uncertain. How can we know for certain that one side will be successful and the other side will not be successful? Again, to Frodo's moral failure, or sorry, not moral failure, but just failure in general, Tolkien says that it was that uncertainty of him, of if he could destroy it or not, and if he could even make it to Mount Doom or not, that had really got him that far, and that had pushed him to that limit. Had he known, then maybe he hadn't got that far. Yeah, it's very interesting. I had to mention it because the connections were fascinating. Dostoevsky also talks about the concept of seeing and imagining. He also talks about, well, really, this book has just, in a sense, humbled me, made me realize what I was doing, well, just garnering knowledge and just trying to make that my sole purpose or meaning was generally just not a good idea. So I guess now the question is, how do I approach philosophy? Which I guess is to say that, well, I won't be, as weird as it sounds, I don't think I will be reading that much anymore or writing that much anymore. I have to actually do things now, take action, instead of just sitting here in my thoughts in my mind, because happiness was all an illusion in my mind. It was not something I would look to in the real world. I guess I shouldn't approach this with logic or science in mind, but just accepting that I don't know things and just leading by that intuition and that feeling, and fascination and curiosity. Because I doubt that if we knew everything, we could be curious, or as curious as if when we didn't know that much. I guess it is enough that we don't know, and maybe even our happiness is placed in what we don't know, that uncertainty. I don't know, I'm still debating in my head about those thoughts. Or well, no, I should stop debating now. I don't know what to make of it. I guess for another analogy, as weird as it sounds, this acceptance of uncertainty can maybe even relate to a Minecraft world. You just sort of, well, if you were certain of every single thing that was in that world, then I doubt we would explore or even have that much pleasure in exploring the world. But since there's a limit to our chunks, even to distant horizons, you can only see so far. But even though you can see, it's just a blur and you can't really know what's really there or down below. Yeah, it's just, I don't know, I might have to make another video about Minecraft, because it's surprisingly philosophically dense, and you see all those videos online going up with people playing background, and then they ramble on, or they talk about life advice. But the game itself is just really, really rich in that, I feel, which is kind of hilarious because it was my childhood, and I would never had thought of it like that. But so I guess just to take away everything, meaning is not found in knowledge or books or writing, but I guess in this sort of absence, this pursuit for what we don't know, I think. I would never have thought that books or writing, something as intellectually challenging as reading a book or as good for you, can somehow ruin or like skew your perspective on things in such a drastic way. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. I guess it's kind of crazy to say I should start reading less or writing less, but really that's probably what I should do. Yeah, that's it for today's video. Thank you guys for watching. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one.